Welcome everybody to new Cloud Firewall, updates you'll want to hear. My name is Gregory Leibovitz. I am the outbound product management lead for the network security portfolio.
And I am Tracy Jen, product manager covering Cloud Firewall portfolio.
In this session, we're going to share about a bunch of new capabilities and features that we've added to Cloud Firewall recently. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Google Cloud offers a robust set of network security tools to help you secure your entire cloud infrastructure. At the Internet Edge, we provide a family of load balancers and CDNs for availability and scalability and performance. Now, built into that stack and around it are several security tools for access control, for privacy, for authentication. To these, we add tools with deeper context that specialize in getting into layer 7 and understanding the specific threats for things like APIs and fraud and bots and secure application access. Deeper inside your cloud environment, we have a fully distributed set of access control capabilities, both for workloads and for your cloud services. Now, when I use cloud services here, I'm talking about things like storage and BigQuery and Cloud Run. And then we provide a full complement of network-level telemetry. Taking it a step further, we have industry-leading advanced threat detections. If raw packets are what you're after, we provide a full packet inspection service with our packet mirroring capability. And so traffic can be sent to a number of third-party tools that you can find in our marketplace. All the alerts and telemetry from these products are integrated into our own threat hunting, alert management, and unified security management services. Plus, we integrate with a bunch of third-party SIEM and source systems as well. You can find those in our marketplace. Today, we're going to focus on the item in green, Cloud Firewall. We just recently announced significant enhancements to Cloud Firewall at our Cloud Next conference. Cloud Firewall is a scalable, cloud-native service with advanced protection capabilities that helps enhance and simplify security posture and helps you move toward a zero-trust networking environment for your workloads. A little background first before we dive into the details. As we talked with customers, it's become clear that they have three core areas of need when it comes to firewall protections for their cloud workloads. The first is complete control. As they're transitioning from on-prem, where it's primarily perimeter-based controls, to the cloud, where they're controlling traffic within the cloud environment, what they really want is control not just north-south, but also for full east-west connectivity. And they want the option for complete microsegmentation. Second, they asked us to provide them a way to do this that was easy, that was quick to deploy, and that was flexible. It was really clear that they know how to bring their on-prem firewalls in a virtual format and run it here in cloud, but they're tiring of the complexity around that. They also want to simplify their rule writing by using cloud context around the workload's identities and rules so that they can write and create the configuration of their policies in a way that is more natural rather than having to translate them all into IP addresses. And finally, they wanted granular controls for protection and compliance at the network level. So we took this feedback and we looked at it and said we have two options for how we can architect this approach. On the left is the network instance approach. And on the right is the fully distributed approach. So on the left for the network instance approach, this kind of more closely resembles what it might be for their on-premise security platforms. But if you use this construct in cloud, in a more cloud-native kind of DevOps environment, it's very limiting. To scale that approach or that mechanism, you need to replace an instance with a larger, beefier instance, or at some point you're going to need to add a load balancer. You're going to need to start counting sessions and checking CPU and RAM and monitor it all very closely in order to know when you need to upgrade it. Also, enforcement occurs at the VPC edge, which is fine for sort of north-south connections, but it's very cumbersome for east-west. Now, for the fully distributed approach on the right, enforcement occurs very differently. It occurs as a bump in the wire between the VNIC and the virtual switch. And rules are applied right there. for each particular workload. This allows for full east-west as well as north-south enforcement. In other words, full microsegmentation. We chose the distributed approach. So jumping into this in a little bit more detail, the stateful inspection firewall is a fully distributed construct. We've woven it completely into our software-defined networking fabric. So this enforcement, like I said, occurs at each workload. It's between the virtual NIC and our SDN fabric that we use to move packets around. And those colored balls on the slide represent the different set of firewall rules that are culled out of the policy that you write for us and then automatically applied as needed for that specific workload type. Right there, and they come and go as the workloads come and go. So things we're going to tell you about in a few minutes, things like tags and threat intelligence lists, aggressor groups, FQDN, the geolocation, whatever it is, all those mechanisms of enforcement are all applied right there at the workload. As such, it scales inherently. So in other words, as workloads are added, you have more capability, more throughput, more capacity for the firewall exactly as you need for the number of workloads you have and the amount of traffic they're pushing. Even globally, if global network firewall policies are used. So this approach allows for intra-subnet microsegmentation without the need for an agent, again, giving complete east-west visibility and enforcement. And this helps our customers start to move toward and achieve a zero-trust networking environment for their workloads. And it does so in two ways. First, it gives them the ability to run a default deny environment with explicit allow rules for any traffic in their cloud, leveraging that agentless microsegmentation capability for complete east-west granular enforcement. And second, it provides them the visibility to see all the traffic and log it so that they can identify the connectivity patterns that their workloads, that their apps, that their workload types have in order to form the explicit permit policies that help them migrate toward a zero-trust posture. Now, to this architecture, we have added a bunch of new features and capabilities, and we've grouped them into two offerings. One is Cloud Firewall Essentials, and the other Cloud Firewall Standard.
That's right, Gregory. Building on top of the fully distributed architecture, here's what we offer as a Cloud Firewall portfolio. The Cloud Firewall Essential tier gives users a powerful foundation to build their zero-trust networking architecture. The Cloud Firewall Standard gives them more capabilities to protect their workload in a dynamic environment. On the manageability side, we introduced two products last year that are also included as part of the Cloud Firewall portfolio. Hierarchical firewall policy allows users to manage firewall policies at scale while safely delegating controls to project teams. Firewall Insights helps customers optimize their cloud firewall configuration and improve their security posture. Now let's take a look at these components in more details. The Firewall Essential service tier forms the foundation for the Cloud Firewall family. It brings in three major enhancements over VPC firewall rules. The new network firewall policy construct, both global and regional. Tags that are IAM governed, and address group objects. These new functionalities help users achieve microsegmentation inter-VPC, intra-VPC, and intra-subnet. Such workload segmentation is applied independent of network structure and give users simple and granular firewall controls. Let's go into a bit more detail on network firewall policy and tags. Comparing with VPC firewall rules, the network firewall policy comes with several advantages. Just as the hierarchical firewall policies at the organization and folder level, a network firewall policy is a container with a list of prioritized firewall rules in it. It naturally provides batch update capability and avoid risk conditions, thus greatly simplifies firewall rule configuration and update. When attached to a global VPC network, rules in a global firewall policy are automatically applied to compute instances from all regions in this network, which is very convenient for customers with a global footprint. On the other hand, if regional control or data residency are required for compliance reasons, customer can also set the policy scope to regional with a specific target region. Then rules defined in this policy will only be applied to compute instances in this particular region. Network firewall policies comes with very strict IAM controls, allowing organizations to delegate policy creation, update, and use privileges to different groups in your company. The configuration for network firewall policies is right within the firewall area. On the right, you will see the default is global, and the regional is an option. Tags are GCP-wide resources that are created with strict IAM controls. Only users with proper IAM permissions can create, update, and delete tags. In order to associate a tag with a compute instance, user must have both permissions to modify the compute instance properties and the permission to use the tag. Since tags are used in firewall rules to define access controls for different workloads, the strict IAM model is crucial to ensure the security and reliability of these policies. Under each organization, user can create up to 1,000 tag keys, and for each tag key, they can create up to 1,000 tag values. Each tag key value pair forms a unique tag, so a maximum of 1 million unique tags can be created for each organization, and a tag can be assigned to any number of VMs in a VPC network. Tags can not only be used to define access control within a single VPC, but between peer VPC networks as well. You will find tag under IAM section. Once configured, they will be available as an option in the firewall rule creation. Hey, Gregory, just at the Cloud Next a month ago, we introduced a few new, very cool features for the Cloud Firewall family. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And together we call them Cloud Firewall Standard. So currently this is in preview. And Standard introduces an expanded set of source and destination objects for firewall rules that are dynamic and are built and automatically updated by Google. These are Google Cloud Threat Intelligence, which I'll cover in a second in a little bit more detail. Domain name or FQDN-based objects. For example, you can configure http 8.foo.bar, and we keep the IP resolutions up to date for that fully qualified domain name, even if they change. And then the third is geolocation-based objects. So these are things like country codes that can be used for explicit permits in a rule, or geofencing for compliance, for example. These together simultaneously provide a more granular control, and they simplify policy configuration. One customer told us that it's sort of like having least privilege along with self-serve all at the same time. So I just mentioned the Google Cloud Threat Intelligence set of objects for rules in Firewall Standard. Well, those same objects, the threat intelligence objects, are available for other products in Google Cloud, like Cloud Armor today. And we're going to have future products where they'll be available as well. So that threat intelligence today includes 5 types of objects. And some of those are meant for blocking. And these are, for example, like known malicious IPs or Tor exit nodes. And then some are meant for allowing. And these would be like search engines and public clouds and upstream providers, maybe like CDN providers, for example. We'll be adding many more types over time to the threat intelligence and enhancing this even with Mandiant's threat intelligence too, as we just closed that acquisition. So here we see a quick summary side by side of the essentials and the standards capabilities. So Tracy, I mentioned earlier this concept of like least privilege and self-service, and it really gets introduced with essentials and standard, but then hierarchical firewall policies are a big part of that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. So I mentioned this about the manager capabilities before, so let's describe them a bit more here. The firewall policies can be attached to different levels to the GCP resource hierarchy, including organization, folder, and VPC networks. The level of firewall policies attached to defines the scope of this policy. Combined with the distributed firewall architecture, the hierarchical firewall policy model gives users a very good balance between reliable global control and safe delegation of local access control to project teams. When a policy is defined At an organizational level, it is automatically applied to all existing and new workload in the organization, regardless of how their network topology is configured. These firewall policies are enforced following a strict hierarchical model where policies attached to a higher level of the hierarchy is guaranteed to be enforced before a policy attached to a lower level, making it safe to support a self-service model where project teams are allowed to manage local firewall policies without violating corporate security rules. At the same time, a corporate security team can also use the granular control in the firewall policy to handle exceptions as needed for a subset of VMs or VPC networks in their organization. In addition, Firewall Insights products brings in a set of powerful analytics capabilities that are designed to help our customer validate and simplify their firewall configuration and improve security posture. It automatically analyzes customers' firewall rules and identifies rules overshadowed by higher-level rules. Based on firewall logs, it identifies customers' traffic pattern, report firewall runtime metrics for troubleshooting and operational alerts. It also makes recommendations for users to tighten up their allow rule configuration and minimize attack surfaces.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up. We wanted to leave you with a few key takeaways of what we've been saying. First, enhanced security posture. With all these new capabilities and features in Standard and Essentials, you get much more granular control. Second, simplicity. The capabilities were designed to help you deliver in our cloud-native service more simplified granular controls. You don't often get more granular control and more simple together. So that's a pretty cool combination that we've tried to put together for your SecOps teams. The third is scale. The cloud service scales inherently. Together, all together, you get a least privileged self-service environment. Getting started is easy with Cloud Firewall. It's right in the Cloud Console's left toolbar under VPC Network, and then you select Firewall. Last, if you'd like to get your hands on new standard features like Cloud Threat Intelligence, the domain name, geolocation objects, or address objects during their no-cost previews, which are going on right now, just contact your account team. Provide them the projects that you'd like enabled, and we'll get you all set up. Now you're all caught up with Cloud Firewall, and you can get started enhancing the security posture of your environment. Thanks very much for joining us today.